Zenitsu finally stopped being
a pussy.
and it's absolutely heartbreaking that it took this long. After years of basically him dodging the smoke and letting Tanjiro and Inosuke saving him over and over and over again, one major event completely transformed his personality from being a coward to a revenge-driven machine. But here's the brutal reality. He had this power inside him the entire time. Because think about it, Zenitsu was forming under a former Hashira who trained him to perfect his thunder breathing to the maximum level and actually had some potential, weirdly enough. Today we will talk about why Zenitsu's locking in moment is quite satisfying to watch, but actually represents a dangerous pattern we fall into. Waiting for life forcing us to change, instead of choosing growth before we have to make that choice. Point 1. The comfort zone of weakness. When being helpless becomes your identity. Zenitsu didn't just act weak, he built his entire personality around it. He always felt somehow comfortable to be this weak and kind of pathetic acting guy who always needs help. And this gave him something that actually most people crave. Zero expectations. Like, who would bet on someone who looks for the best corner to cry in and waits for others to do the hard work? Like, think about it. Who would depend on a coward? A literal kid called him a coward and decided that it's probably done for him. And if you really think about it, Zenitsu's motivation to become a swordsman was a forced decision, but also a realization. His master basically saved him from getting scammed, or after actually getting scammed, and he realized probably through that event that he is quite pathetic for letting something like this happen to him. So he realized he had to change, but the moment for him to change was quite uncomfortable, to say the least. Becoming a demon slayer is not easy. But here's what's going on really when we look deep into Zenitsu's history. He has always been someone who was looked down upon by others. He had no one really rooting for him. He basically got the Naruto treatment if you think about it. He had no friends, no parents, and just always was faced with people who didn't like him, basically, for being weak. Even as a viewer, even for me, it was always like, I never liked Zenitsu as a character because he was so weak, but I just had to watch an episode in order to remind me that he really didn't have it easy, you know. He was dealt with pretty harsh cards, and he even realizes that he is flawed. But his anxiety always forces him to make these, well, cowardly driven decisions. And we do similar things with our own lives. Maybe you are the guy in your friend group who's bad with money, so nobody really expects you to have your finances together. Maybe you're not really the gym person, so nobody really expects you to be fit. So you never really have to face the discomfort of becoming either financially disciplined or someone who actually takes care of himself physically. We tend to use our perceived weakness as shields in order to protect ourselves from growth and real effort and vulnerability. Point 2, crisis-driven change versus sustainable growth. While waiting for rock bottom is actually quite dangerous. Zenitsu's transformation was triggered by a traumatic event. Something so devastating that changing would actually be less painful than being who he always was. And while that's quite powerful if we look at Zenitsu, it's also something quite dangerous and easy to be taken away because it's driven by external motivations or by external circumstances. The problem with waiting for rock bottom to really make that change for you is that it A, either might never come, or B, even worse, might come too late. How many opportunities did Zenitsu have to actually be helpful while fighting with Tanjiro and Inosuke? How many opportunities did he have to show his master that he's actually willing to not only become a demon slayer, but to also become a better man? If you really think about it, Zenitsu's traumatic event could have been prevented if he chose to become more brave early on in his life. So real growth happens from an intrinsic standpoint. Real growth happens when you make that conscious choice and instead of waiting for life to make that choice for you. And this is really the difference between reactive and proactive change. Reactive change feels dramatic and really can get you results quickly. But unfortunately, it's motivated by pain and fear. Whereas proactive change feels slower, sure, but actually builds resilience. Point 3, the cost of wasted potential. What happens when you wait too long? The saddest part is that, again, Zenitsu's abilities were always there. His unconscious fighting proved he had the technical skills. And like he's a blitz guy, like he's the fast guy. He even has the most badass anime trope out there. What he lacked was the mental strength to access them while awake, while conscious. And if you really think about it, we could draw a parallel to Sasuke here. While Sasuke's never has been a coward, really, he also has the same driven motivation as Zenitsu has. Motivation to change driven by trauma. Sasuke's life goal after Itachi killed his whole clan was to revenge his clan, basically to kill Itachi. And that was basically the only motivator for Sasuke, which really led to multiple bad decisions. Betraying his friends, leaving the Hidden Leaf, going to Orochimaru, who was like the biggest op of the Hidden Leaf. And when he finally achieved killing Itachi, you would think that everything is fine, right? But it was really the opposite. He became an empty vessel who was ready to be filled with more trauma, which Obito, yeah, he used it quite well to turn Sasuke from a actually good-hearted anti-hero who made, weird choices, who was really complex, into someone who could be actually considered a bad person. Straight up. Because he didn't hesitate to kill Karin when Danzo was holding her. And Sakura would have been dead if it wasn't for Naruto. So the path that Zenitsu is embarking doesn't hold a bright future, to say the least. In your own life, really think about opportunities you have to change before waiting actually for the moment or for life to force you to do that. I wasted years on just living or coasting through life because I didn't see the need to change. I was driven by loneliness actually, and chose to party and not really care about my personal growth. But it wasn't something that aligned with me if I really thought about it. I was always the guy who liked doing sport, who loved basketball actually, who always craved to be, it sounds arrogant, better than others, but from a standpoint where I wanted to build a life that feels super duper fulfilling. But I stopped for a few years because I felt lonely. So the cost isn't really what you don't achieve. The cost is rather what others, and most importantly yourself, miss out on when you don't make a conscious choice to change. So Zenitsu's transformation shows the potential that we as human beings actually have inside us, which is also paired, unfortunately, with the tragedy of waiting to actually act upon it if we make that choice too late. So don't wait for life to change you, basically. Make that choice yourself. Really take a moment, or take few moments, take however, like as many moments as you need in order to figure out where you need to change and how you need to change, and if even you need to change. Not everyone needs to change, of course, but at some point in life, you will have to. So realize when you have to, and even comment down below how you want to change if you're comfortable with that, and subscribe to the channel so because it's nice. All right guys, see you in the next one.